First by introducing you, this is Marion Meier, and Marion Meier is a member of my AARP club in Land O'Lakes, Florida. I'm the president, and she's been every officer and every board leader and board member that I can think of. She taught me a lot of what I know today.
Oh, please.
She was already in a superior position when I joined, so if I think I'm swell, you're super swell, right?
Oh, yeah, right. But
there
look
you
what
go.
took over from me.
Well, thank you, thank you. I am a retired attorney, and as I said, president of Land O'Lakes ARP. I'm also chair of the board of directors of a group called CARES. It's a retirement service. So I do a lot of volunteer work, and I do that because I respect women such as mainly Marion Meier for all that she's done pretty much on a volunteer basis. I mean, she was a businesswoman, a manager, involved in every facet of business, government, etc. But when she chose to dedicate her life to community service, and when I see the things she did and the proclamations and the thank you letters she would get from very famous people, you might say, in New York, and then again in Land O'Lakes when she moved here, I'm just so impressed. I just want to be like her. She's my hero, and so that's why I chose to come over here and help the Land O'Lakes Library and the Pasco County Library System by doing this interview today. With that being said, I'm going to ask Marion some questions. And what year were you born, if that's not an offensive question,
Not
and
offensive,
where were
no.
you born?
1933. The only one that was offended was my mother.
Why, were you a big baby?
No, I was a dead one, actually.
Oh, okay.
I was born 35 minutes dead. Yeah.
That's what made you so smart.
No, I think that's part of what started to ruin my neck.
Oh. So you had an issue from the very beginning.
Yeah.
You're not your typical girl.
Yeah,
Okay.
not at all. My mother was battling with a nurse that she had already given birth, and the nurse came back around and pushed me back in again. Oh. And doing that, the umbilical cord wrapped around my throat, so it was wrapped around 3 times.
I never knew this story, and I've known you for 5 years.
And the doctor finally came by and pulled the nurse out for doing that, and he was all nervous because they were working on me for 35 minutes to bring me around.
But that didn't stop you, that strange start in life.
No,
because
it didn't.
When I look at your resume and I look at your many pictures and thank you letters, as I said earlier, from mayors, etc., governors, it looks to me that you have been a lifelong volunteer in community services, and you are what I would consider a solution person. You're a fixer. Would you say that's true?
Yes.
Whether it's an environmental issue or a toll booth issue,
or if it's a house living issue, or if it's
hungry people without homes, anything you can think of, anything that I'm trying to break
people
into
with
now.
Fences against fences, you know, that sort of thing.
Okay, so that and transportation you dealt with, roadways, ash from landfills. These are all very familiar things to you. Every time I saw a clipping about you, Marion, when you showed me your first of many scrapbooks, I kept saying thank you. Thank you Marion, for handling the most relevant issues. Thank you for handling an issue we didn't even know we had. Thanks for having the courage, even though others were fighting you, to say, do what's right. Wouldn't you call yourself a fixer? And is there anything else you'd like to tell us about your time in New York when you were doing these things, when you were what, in your 40s, 50s?
No, actually I wasn't. I don't think I was that old. Let me see. I was kind of young when I was
You
doing
look like
that.
you were in 20s in many of the pictures. Did you start that early?
Probably my late 20s.
Late 20s?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, probably my late 20s.
Anything stand out for you? I know your health isn't great right now.
The big things that I brought about were things that they told me I couldn't do. That was impossible. And of course, New York City has a one-way toll now because of me. They absolutely refused to do that. They said they wanted a two-way toll, but that used to beef up all the backup of traffic at all the toll booths and everything. Be backed up for miles. And in Staten Island, that was particularly problematic because the people who lived in New Jersey used Staten Island as the bridge to New York City and downtown.
I see.
So Staten Islanders couldn't get to work.
So with your ideas and your tenacity, they have what they need today.
I made them go the other way.
Wow. Do they love you or hate you for that?
No, they love me for that. The only thing they didn't like me for was when they turned around and told me that the Statue of Liberty was actually on Bedloe Island that belonged to New Jersey, and that they put it there. And I said, oh, really? I said, then why did you turn the back end of the statue to you?
That's very interesting, and I was working for the state of New Jersey when that happened, although I didn't know you then. Okay. Just to interrupt for a moment, because you know I love AARP and I love the AARP group in Land O'Lakes. Didn't you get a certificate of achievement today from our chapter for all the work you've done for us?
Yes, I absolutely did. And I didn't really expect that because you know, you turn around and you consider what you do to be the thing that you're supposed to be doing when you're with a group of people.
Expect it.
That's right. It's something that you think that's what you're there for.
Well,
do.
if you're a giver and a fixer,
you know, you put it out there, and if it's acceptable to others, and if others feel that they can live with it, then you do it. You try to bring it about. But I really didn't expect to see an acknowledgement of anything like that.
Well, you certainly do deserve it. And I know what you're talking about because the way you work for AARP and any group you worked for in New York or in Florida, it seems that you took your business acumen into it. You did it as a business, as an expectation. That's what you were there for. You might not be getting paid in dollars, but you're being paid feeling that you did the right thing. So that's why you're surprised. You're thinking, am I special? Isn't this what people should do? That's what's so impressive, Marion.
Maybe a little special was my sense of humor. Because I always had
that is special, especially when it's used against some of us. No, I'm kidding.
An audience. I had certain ways of grabbing an audience. That I had used as an example. At one big meeting we had, we were trying to get this group of to acknowledge that this was going to be something we're going to save for Staten Island, not build on it in more real estate development, and overpopulate the area.
Sure.
And we had a hearing that the hearing was supposed to be conducted by the people who are our
representatives?
Yeah, representatives at various state levels and city levels at that time. They were invited to come in and listen to us. And what they did instead was they all spoke, and they said what they thought we wanted them to say. And then they got up there, and it was our turn to be, you know, listened to. And they all started inching their way out the door, and I said, wait a minute, this was a hearing that was supposed to be conducted for the benefit of the our representatives hearing us. We heard you, now please sit down and hear us.
So that really wasn't a joke, that was serious.
No, that wasn't a joke. I made them all sit down.
And they did?
They did. They wouldn't dare walk out.
Do you remember what that was the Staten Island issue? I was going to ask you if you remembered.
Yeah, that was a big Staten Island issue, yes.
What did this come from, Marion? Look at this, the Assembly, State of New York, citation. Whereas a great state is only as great as those persons who give exemplary services to their community. Whereas such service, which is truly the lifeblood of the community and the state, so often goes unrecognized and unrewarded. Now therefore be it resolved that as a duly elected member of the State Assembly of New York, I recognize that in Marion A. Meier, for that we have an outstanding citizen, one who is worthy of the esteem of the community and of the great state of New York. Signed by the Assembly of the State of New York.
Yes.
Do you remember how many issues or what kind of issues were involved in this citation?
This one was primarily one of the big ones that I told you about, that I got two things done there that they could not erase. Once they were passed through, once I got them through, they couldn't bring it back and take it back again.
Because you got the community on your side?
No, because I got the state on my side.
That works.
Yeah, that worked.
That worked.
Yeah. So the state acknowledged the fact that the Greenbelt, that 4,000-acre park that was smack in the middle of Staten Island, right for real estate development and over-impaction with population, was not going to go down the tubes. It was going to remain forever 4,000 acres reserved to the state of New York.
And that was because of you?
That's because of that. In fact, there's tapes of that day and everything else around here.
How does that make you feel when you look back at your life?
Like that was a wonderful achievement. I really felt very proud of that one.
Was it worth all the work and the hassle? And
I got hassled from, we had community boards at that time, which were made up of 50 people. You had a chief who was usually somewhat politically and maybe even monetarily involved. Use that discretionary word. Along with 50 other people, 49 other people that were representative of small segments in the community, so that the there were three such segments like that in Staten Island.
Oh.
So I was in part of community board too, and he fought like the devil to keep me out of there, and eventually I took him over.
Yeah, I mean, I saw pictures of you sometimes in the audience at hearings and speeches, sometimes up at the table. You were a member of a board or a committee, and sometimes you were just kind of standing there with your finger shaking at people. So you were wherever you needed to be to get things done.
Try to grab attention with what I call an explosive subject.
And when you moved to Florida, I think you came to Florida about 20 years ago, because your husband liked golf.
Actually,
and
more than that. I think it was
a little more than 20?
30.
Oh, close to 30.
Yeah, close to 30.
When you came here, did you right away get involved in community things? Because I know that in AARP you do a lot for a lot of shelters and services.
Well, I was working with my husband at that time on veterans issues.
Okay.
Yeah, first I worked with him on veterans issues because his health was going.
Was that a volunteer position?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you work with your husband on veterans issues. That was the first thing you did.
For guidance, really, and
sure.
You know, also the guys got along with me, and you know, so that was okay too with him. He always liked having a wife that was very attractive, and the other guys liked to hang around. You know, that was a feather in his cap.
So that was your game the two of you played, to get people to agree with you on veterans issues?
I don't know
clever,
if he knew
Marion.
that I knew, but
you knew.
Yeah,
with
I knew
your
it was
wiles.
right. Yeah.
You knew it. Okay.
Yes, yes.
Now, with AARP, I know that you have helped us numerous times over the past 5 years to get money, donations to Christian social services, the Land O'Lakes Animal Shelter, to put good environmental practices in place. Even our coffee cups are the right kind, and other workable. You've actually made, I think, my personal opinion working with you, you have created workable community relationships between AARP and the legislative leaders in the area, and that was because of the friendships, the business friendships that you struck up, and that I know you tried to get a few people to come and speak to us 2 or 3 years ago, and they were busy. It was election time, but your relationship with them has helped us considerably. We have a high amount of respect. As you know, our chapter for the past 3 years has been either the #1 chapter or the chapter Beyond Excellence in all the state of Florida, and I always consider you a great part of that happening. Was between the time you worked with your husband on veterans issues and I met you at AARP 5 years ago, what other kinds of things were you doing here? Were you doing environmental work?
Well, no, not really.
Just more general community?
Say it was environmental work as much as I was just trying to get the recognition for veterans moved around a bit more.
So you stayed with vets for a while there?
Yeah, stay with the veteran situation. In fact, I still keep pushing the veteran situation. Even here, I want them to open up a branch here of the VA, for the VA through AARP. I think I mentioned that to you once.
Yeah, I was just going to say, I remember hearing that before.
Yes, that I thought that they really are ripe here, and there's over 400 units in here, and there's at least usually 2 people for each unit, so you've got a large number of people in here.
And we're dedicated to them through ARP. I mean, we do pack goodie bags for them when they're overseas and so forth.
And I think they would also like to know what it is that they can help do, your type of organization, to bring it in here and make it more active. One hand washes the other, in other words. That's something I guess you did all the time to make all the groups and committees and different factions come together. Yes, so they all come together. That works. That works. All the stakeholders. It looks to me that you proposed solutions, both in New York and in Florida, proposed solutions for land utilization, bridge toll matters, as we talked about, homeless housing issues, roads, traffic flow improvement, insurance solutions, and more. Do you have a favorite, and now vets, I'm just learning about that. Do you have a favorite charity or community piece that you would say, I enjoy that the most, or I've been the most successful at since you've been in Florida? I mean, I know all you've done for AARP, so the answer might be you have it all. But is there anything else before I met you 5 years ago that you did here? That I did here? For Pasco County or Zephyr Hills? Well, in the residents in my first community were very much catering to the land developer there, and they were putting in things in there that favored the land developer. When you first came to Florida, okay. Yeah, and what he wanted to do in their community and in our community, in the way of extracting extra money from us that we really didn't have to pay in the way of common charges. So I made them. You made that your fight? I made them revamp their common charges, that they had to get all the grease out of there. They should have known you were coming. They weren't ready for you, right? They weren't ready for me. No, they really weren't ready for me. And I think they still think they aren't, but but you're here. I'm here. Talking about you being here. And they're not. And they are not. That was the important part. That works. Yeah. With a vengeance. You do good things with a vengeance, and that's a good thing. Yeah. Your health hasn't been good. Are you able to do anything from home? I mean, you're doing it now. Thank you for sitting for the StoryCorps. Is there anything else that you're able to do? I'm very limited in what I'm doing at home. We're hoping that you get well. Unfortunately, because the breathing really gets to be a terrible problem. And I'm not so entirely sure that that's not part of what I was fighting up in Staten Island with the waste matter floating out of New Jersey across the Staten Island. You know, there was a certain corridor that was terrible for, and then the largest garbage dump in the world was about 8 miles from my house, and I was downwind from all of that. And all of that, there was actually a corridor in Staten Island itself where people had every conceivable kind of cancer you could imagine. And it was my contention that all of that came from those plants, those plants with the solid waste bearing and everything that they burning that they were doing, and all the chemistry and everything that they were developing up there.
And you were involved with the Clean Air Act and a lot of the other pieces of
legislation. Well, I was involved in getting the fact in there should be a Clean Air Act, and that they couldn't avoid it because they were killing people by doing it.
Yeah, Clean Air Act issues.
Yeah.
Exactly. So environmental was pretty much
I was there before
favorite.
They gave it a name.
And you, yeah, it was a while ago. And you carried that over from New York to here.
Oh yeah.
Whether we're talking dump sites or
Right.
incinerator ash or
even just the abuse by land developers.
Yeah, I mean, it's
Which
not
they
right
do.
if they're making the money. They
They're
certainly
making
should
the
be
money
taking care of the resources.
Yes, and it shouldn't be something that they've got such absolute control of what you're paying every month that you can't go afford to turn around and improve your own neighborhood.
Yeah. Well, when I practiced law before I retired, I was working in New Jersey, as you know. We've talked about that. And I represented the Department of Environmental Protection before I went to a law firm. And I became friendly with Rick Gemello. And I don't know if you remember his name, but his picture's all over your scrapbook. I looked at it. I was like, she knows Rick. I mean, he's a great guy. He was the Assistant Commissioner for Environmental Matters at DEP for a while when I was there. He was my client. I would take him to meetings. We would fight for new legislation, etc. That was New Jersey. How did it come to be that Rick and other New Jersey people were in pictures with you? Was this about the Statue of Liberty, or were these environmental issues that were crossing waters or land?
Right, exactly. They were environmental issues that I would usually try to get them involved myself.
Good.
I'd contact them and tell them what I was doing. Or they would get to hear it through the newspaper, because I had the newspapers pretty much as a
Guide.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Not just a guide, but they were actually an expedient for me to get in touch with her.
That was the way you got your word out.
That's right.
That was your fight through the paper.
So I put the thoughts I had, they were printed in the paper, and then the newspaper took them to where they had to be.
Well, that's something you could do now if you felt well, even though your health has been bad. You could do that now, and you probably do, knowing you.
I probably do, yes.
Good.
Yeah.
Good.
Yeah.
That's very good. I noticed that you wrote a poem. Would you be embarrassed if I read a little bit of it? You wrote an environmental appreciation poem. It was in your scrapbook.
Did I?
You did. Springtime in the Greenbelt. O mighty oak, how strong and stately you grow. I wonder how many generations have passed beneath your spreading boughs. Their footfalls softened by turf enriched by spring's thaw, and altogether silenced by the gentle wind above us. It goes on. I don't want to use up too much of our time because we need to hear more from you, but I'll skip through. I like this. The moments do not pass. With the fading sun, a golden light slowly becomes the mauve of evening. I can picture it. And suddenly all is lavender, and the wind halts its constant search. This is a love of greenery, a love of environment, a love of natural resources. Is that what made you do it, besides trying to protect human health?
Absolutely, yes.
And you've done that here as well as there.
I've also felt the oneness with nature, always. And trees were my big thing, always trees.
I love trees, too. We have October birthdays. Maybe it's an October birthday thing. It could be that.
Yeah, could be that.
That's very interesting. Thank you so much. And I have a picture of an adorable little girl here, a little puppy. Do you want to tell us anything about her?
Oh, yeah, that was my little girl. In fact, she just died not too long ago, right in this spot right here.
That's your dog, Lauren McCall, right?
Lauren McCall, right, yes. Mm-hmm.
Did she have a brother or a husband named Bogey?
No, she actually had a distant cousin. I'd gotten Bogey over the internet, which, by the way, I do not recommend anybody do.
What, internet?
Yeah.
Is technology much harder to deal with now than when you were a young person?
Well, it's not that. It's just that the selection you have is, I would say, maybe too limited for what you really need.
I see.
You need upfront.
I see.
You need one-on-one contact.
Yeah.
Not states away.
Okay.
And what I got was something states away that was overly. This poor little creature was so. It's a beautiful dog.
What's next, other than getting well? You know that's first on our list, right?
Right. It is. I just keep trying to move in that direction, looking out there to see what maybe can, what I can give my attention to, that I can physically accomplish, which is the consideration that I have to go into.
You're a hard worker. You don't like to lie down on the job, so you will find something
Well,
and a way to do it. Well, you're weak now because you haven't been well. You know, we
don't
know
sit
that.
me in one spot too long. I'll fall asleep on it.
Well, while you're awake, you have to agree with me that you've been a hard worker in your lifetime.
Oh, yes, yes, I have.
And
yes.
we're talking about technology a moment ago with respect to one of the dogs. What would you, you're not super old, and you look even younger than you are. So I say this with no disrespect, being old myself. You've had a long life so far. We want it to be a lot longer, and I'm sure it will be. But in your lifetime, have you met up with very interesting technology changes or inventions? Have there been, let's say, take from the time you were a little girl, 8 or 10 years old, until now, has a lot changed?
Good God, Gertie, absolutely. Yeah? I mean, one of the biggest things I have a problem with is the internet. I mean, everything you do, they want your email address, and I just don't give one anymore.
Why
I stopped
not?
doing that. Well, because first of all, it's invasive. Secondly, I got into trouble with you know, one of the internet groups. They
you just feel unsafe. They
yes, I
kind
do.
of compromised your
Yes,
information.
you're right.
And you have to be careful of that and fraud.
Not only that, but I just don't consider them favorable to work with. They don't help. They don't help any.
I got you.
If they can't help me, they can hinder me.
Well, we didn't grow up in the computer time, either of us. We
No.
really didn't. But we need to do the basics, and you do that. You know, I'm very impressed that you don't say, "Oh, I was too old to learn." You do it. I have your email address. I
keep
email you
trying.
it.
Yeah,
you
well,
keep saying call me instead, but I keep emailing you.
Yeah, because the emails, they're not turning them over to me. They're locking them up on me.
Who is? The internet.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
So we have our problems with technology, but you've seen a lot
Yeah,
of
they
changes.
told me that I have to sign up now. I have to pay to get on it. What I've been using at AOL, the AOL group people, they insisting I have to pay
It's a
for it
pain.
now.
We got to get you some help. We have to find a fixer like you've been for a lot of people.
Yeah,
Somebody that can fix
right.
your stuff.
Yeah, 'cause
Some paybacks, right, Marion?
Absolutely. I went and bought a new computer, and the only thing that did was get me in more trouble. So I play games on it, and that's it. I stay in the trouble.
Games are fun. Games are fun.
Yeah.
Well, thank you very much. I mean, unless we have something else, I think that this has been wonderful. And I know that the Land O'Lakes Library and their associates and employees are going to be putting together a nice StoryCorps
Yeah, and I have to thank
movie,
them for
I'll call
this
it.
idea.
And isn't this wonderful?
Yeah, I really have to thank them for this idea. I didn't think such a thing was possible here. But one more word. You know, I'm going to be after you to get a AARP chapter started in here, so that 400 some odd people can take advantage.
Well, I love to have a
what?
big group, which is over 90 right now in Land O'Lakes, but to have people have to drive from Zephyr Hills and other places when we could have additional chapters,
They're not going to do
good.
that. And we have the clubhouse
you on
all of
that.
our own.
Yeah.
And we've got all the facility here. It's a fantastically large facility.
We have to either get you a new chapter or get you all bussed over to Land O'Lakes. We'll figure out something.
Well, somehow or other, yeah.
Yeah, because we need you. We need you to come back to meetings.
Yeah.
Thank you, Marion.
Okay, thank you for being here with me.
You're welcome.
I really enjoyed it.
And feel better.
Yes, I hope.